Let's now take you to SABC News anchor Thembekile Mrototo and senior news reporter Canny Maphanga, who've been listening to proceedings of the day. Of course, former IDAC head Andrea Johnson still before the Madlanga Commission and will be, I would imagine, Thembekile, good afternoon to you, resuming tomorrow to continue with her testimony. But, just give us a sense, at 14:40, we handed over the mic to you. And that's when, of course, Justice Madlanga made that announcement.
Well, actually, there isn't much detail on the announcement regarding these charges that the Commission is now going to pursue. All we know is that someone named a witness whose identity was meant to be kept confidential, kept secret, as we know that there are some witnesses who've testified here either in camera, fully in camera, or partially in camera. That would mean where all we could hear was their voice. Those who were in the fully in camera sessions, they had their identities concealed altogether. So what we learned this afternoon from the chairperson of the Commission is that ultimately the identity of a witness has now been made public, and what is alarming about that is that the retired justice says that they believe that that disclosure, the naming of that person, was done deliberately, and that is why the Commission of Inquiry has now decided to use its powers, because such a disclosure is illegal under the laws that govern the work that's being done here. So there will be those charges taken through the police system. So we're all wondering at this stage who it was ultimately who made that name public. But I guess we'll know as soon as the charges against that person are then brought, or as and when they are either asked to turn up at a police station or, who knows, even arrested by the police. Let's bring in SABC News senior reporter Canny Maphanga now. And Canny, we're just talking with Unati regarding the announcement this afternoon that ultimately there has been this breach, shall we say, the naming of a witness whose identity was meant to have been kept secret. This, am I right, the charging or the Commission pursuing criminal charges against whoever's responsible is a new thing since the start of the hearings.
Yes, absolutely, for this particular reason, and of course going far beyond. We've heard the threats of possible prosecution, such as with Suleiman Karim, but this is the first time that we're hearing of the Commission now deciding to take action against an individual who is said to have deliberately disclosed the name of a witness who was in camera before the Commission. We're already on witness O, so we actually don't know which witness was disclosed, their identity, and what the details surrounding that particular issue is, but we do know at the very least that someone will be facing the consequences for that particular act, which the Commission believes was done deliberately.
And it'll be interesting to see how the Commission pursues these charges without, let's say, further exposing this witness who has now been identified to further, shall we say, possible security threats, because that's the main reason that's been given by the people who don't want to appear on camera or who actually don't even want their voices broadcast.
We don't have much detail surrounding how this will be approached, but with the witnesses, such as the in-camera witnesses, there is always a ruling about the identity and how that needs to be preserved. And I think the threshold here is based on the understanding that it was done deliberately. But this is what prompts the need to take further action by the Commission. We do know that sometimes mistakes do happen. We did see it with the Sergeant Corsi evidence, because he was first introduced as witness F, but it seems that in this instance, this is something that was done deliberately, and that is why the Commission is taking action against this particular individual who is unknown to all of us.
And let's shift gears slightly. Andrea Johnson has gone home, the now former head of IDAC. President Ramaphosa accepted her resignation this morning. She's framed it as a decision taken largely to protect the integrity of the ID, as well as the NPA more broadly. Interestingly, though, this afternoon she's been struggling to explain contradictions between the version that she has given to the Commission around some of the work of IDAC, as well as what she said in Parliament last year and what could and could not be made public.
The confusion goes even beyond that, and I think it gives meaning to the reports about Fadil Adams opening cases this morning, because we do see that there is a possibility that IDAC may have been pursuing or disclosing dockets that were based off allegedly manufactured statements, because we're seeing that at the very least there are 2 Section 27 referrals before the probe. However, one was not disclosed and one actually delves into the PKTT, whereas the other one has minimal issues in it. And the question is this something that allegedly Mr. Peramo may have allegedly manufactured and backdated to that particular instance? Because we have 2 witnesses who were stating that on the 6th there was no statements that were taken, because at all times they were together, and there is nothing to support the Fadil Adams statement that he has, which would explain the discrepancies that you see of the location of where it is deposed to, where it is signed, the signatures. Nothing makes sense in those statements. This is a very serious misconduct if true, because it means that the docket, such as the Mukwele docket, was given to the court based off of information that was not factual, information that was allegedly manufactured, and that is the docket that is currently before court. So that raises serious credibility concerns. It goes far beyond the resignation of Advocate Johnson. There's still more from IDAC that raises significant red flags, even beyond her resignation.
And just on the impact that the Mukwele matters had on the reputation of IDAC, I mean, Commissioner Baloyi today at some point said, well, what we know now from the Mukwele case is that ultimately IDAC is able to make a case out of nothing.
Yes, and that's concerning for a number of reasons, because you're seeing that at the very least, even though the motive hasn't been explored quite fully, that cases were being taken to court in a rushed manner without any factual basis or legal ground, and they were being fully prosecuted. And the question is the flaw just merely in the IDAC operational methods, or is there something more sinister taking place there? It's now become more prudent that the Commission needs to hear from the chief IDAC investigator, that is Mr. Peramo, as to how do you explain these significant flaws that now delve into the realm of allegations of serious misconduct and serious illegality, because at the very least you're taking cases to court on manufactured, allegedly, documents and statements and cases that have no factual or legal basis.
So lastly, on Fadil Adams, the Member of Parliament, we don't know yet if he'll be called to appear, but it would appear that there are questions, nonetheless, that the Commission would want him to answer, not least of which how the crime intelligence documents that he says were slipped under his door in Parliament ultimately were handled, because civilians aren't actually allowed a lot of access to crime intelligence documents.
I think he would be crucial to the questioning surrounding this particular case, the Mukwele case, because it relied solely on his Section 27 referral in order to allegedly launch that parallel investigation under Section 28, subsection 13. So he needs to explain that particular statement. He also needs to explain what happened with Mr. Peramo in light of the cases he's opening now against him of allegedly defeating the ends of justice. He must also explain why he was in possession of crime intelligence confidential documents when he actually didn't have the clearance to be in possession of such classified information. There's a lot of questions for Fadil Adams, because it is this particular case that is born out of that Section 27 referral that actually didn't even meet the requirements of a Section 27 referral.
Sorry, Kenny, 2 things that I want to squeeze in quickly. I know we're out of time, but from the struggle, once again, Advocate Andrea Johnson not able to explain how some of the list of people who were part of that crime intelligence investigation kept growing, and how at the end of the list of people who were approved to be investigated, there was this open-ended, shall we say, line that basically gave license to the investigators to look into almost any and every one.
This is why Mr. Peramo's evidence is quite crucial, because that will confirm whether or not indeed she had no knowledge of what was going on, or if he was allegedly just going about his own thing and allegedly manufacturing statements in order to take them to court, which is serious allegations of misconduct and allegedly defeating the ends of justice. Without that particular testimony, you won't be able to close the gap on what Advocate Andrea Johnson did or didn't know with respect to these cases, which I think the Commission has advanced quite extensively on, that they had no legal basis and had no business being presented before a court of law.
Canny Maphanga, SABC News senior reporter, wrapping it up here from the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. It's not over yet for the now former head of the investigating Directorate against corruption, Advocate Andrea Johnson. She's due back here in Pretoria at 9:30 tomorrow to continue her testimony. She may have resigned from her position, saying that it was perhaps the, shall we say, the tidiest way to get out of what could be a longer, more damaging process, not just for her personally, but for IDAC and the broader National Prosecuting Authority infrastructure. But nonetheless, the Commission still wants her to answer questions about what was done during her time at IDAC and whether or not there was a more nefarious, ulterior motive for decisions taken, especially around those prosecutions at Crime Intelligence to do with the appointment of one Dineo Mukwele to a position there. And we know that Mukwele now has requested a meeting with the IDAC Ombud to look into her grievances related to the now former head of IDAC in particular. Not sure how the resignation by Andrea Johnson is going to colour that particular strand that has flowed from the work of the Commission, Unati, but that's where we'll park it for now.
Certainly more questions coming out of Andrea Johnson there, Thembekile, but thank you so much for that comprehensive wrap. Of course, Thembekile Mrototo as well as Canny Maphanga at the Madlanga Commission.